What if I told you that the Fantastic Four could have had a movie so good, so jaw-droppingly powerful, that it would not just have saved Marvel's first family, but also rewritten the entire Marvel box office history? What if I told you that the film we actually got, forgettable, uneven, and cursed, could have been fixed into $1 billion story that audiences would have begged to see again and again? And what if, hidden inside the bones of that failed attempt, there's already the foundation for one of the greatest superhero sagas of all time, if only someone had the courage to bring Dr. Doom out of the shadows and into the heart of the battle? That's exactly what I've done. I've rebuilt the Fantastic Four's First Step movie into a story that feels worthy of Marvel's greatest minds. One that respects their history, raises the stakes, deepens the characters, and unleashes Doom not as a cheap post-credit tease, but as a fully realized player who shakes the foundations of the MCU. This is not just a fan rewrite. This is a theory of what could have been a $2 billion movie. A film that starts with chaos, births destiny, and leaves us hanging on a cliff that would thunder into Avengers Doomsday. And today, I'm going to unfold it for you, act by act, like the story of a film that never was, but always should have been. So sit back, imagine the lights dimming, and let's step into a version of Fantastic Four that finally fixes everything that cursed it. The film opens not with bland setup or endless exposition, but with motion, with danger, with inevitability. The Fantastic Four are not on Earth, they're fleeing. The void of space stretches around them as Galactus's colossal ship looms in the darkness, the Silver Surfer streaking across the stars like a relentless shadow. There's no quiet introduction. The film begins in crisis. Reed Richards pilots desperately. Johnny flares behind them in bursts of flame against the cold vacuum. Sue struggles to maintain a force field against debris, and Ben is bracing the ship against its no human could withstand. It's survival. It's panic. It's the universe itself screaming at them. And then, in the middle of this madness, something impossible happens. Sue Storm gives birth. Amid cosmic pursuit, with death chasing them in the form of Galactus's herald, Franklin Richards is born. The child destined for greatness enters the world in chaos, his first cry echoing against the tremors of the ship. It's primal. It's messy. It's human. And it's the kind of emotional beat that grounds this movie in reality before it explodes into cosmic spectacle. Already, this isn't the Fantastic Four movie we knew. This is bigger, braver, and more dangerous. When the team finally crashes back to Earth, battered, exhausted, and carrying both a newborn and the knowledge of Galactus's looming hunger, the world greets them as celebrities. News networks blast old footage of their battles. Commentators revisit their origin, how they were transformed by cosmic rays, how Reed's genius turned accident into purpose, how they became humanity's first line of defense against threats no one else could face. A montage of their past missions plays like propaganda, praising them, mocking them, dissecting them. The world loves the Four, but it also questions them. And within that media circus, seeds of doubt begin to grow. But then comes the twist that changes everything. Out of the shadows steps Victor Von Doom. Not the cartoonish tyrant, not the cheap power-hungry cliche, but a man who has seen the same storm on the horizon that Reed has. Doom doesn't swagger. He doesn't beg. He declares, "This is my planet too," he says. "And if Galactus comes, none of us will survive. You need me." It's the kind of offer no one expects. Reed bristles instantly, remembering every betrayal, every scar, every battle of intellects that left them as bitter enemies. Sue doesn't trust it. Johnny mocks it. Even Ben, hardened as he is, doubts Doom's sincerity. And yet, they have no choice. The hunger of Galactus is real. The Silver Surfer's pursuit is proof enough. They cannot fight this alone. And Doom knows it. So, begrudgingly, the Fantastic Four allow him into the fold. Not as a friend, not as an equal, but as a necessity. A dangerous ally in the war to come. And this is where the film begins to breathe. We're not diving headlong into action after action. Instead, Act 1 becomes a careful balancing act, a chess game between Reed and Doom. Reed, the idealist, the scientist, who believes intellect and morality must walk hand in hand. Doom, the pragmatist cloaked in arrogance, who insists that survival demands ruthlessness. Their tension crackles in every exchange, every plan, every preparation. And through these debates, we begin to see something extraordinary, the history between them. We cut back through quick but vivid flashbacks to the days before powers, before battles, to the halls of academia where Reed and Victor once studied side by side. We see their brilliance, their competition, their friendship teetering always on the edge of envy. And then we see the fracture, the experiment gone wrong, the pride that broke them, the scars that made Doom. This isn't exposition dumped on us. This is history bleeding through their every interaction, the kind of storytelling that makes every glance between them loaded with years of regret and resentment. Meanwhile, the world watches. The media swirls with speculation. Old footage of the Fantastic Four resurfaces, triumphs, failures, humiliations. We glimpse past missions that were never shown on screen before. The Four stopping a rogue satellite, saving a city from collapse, Johnny learning restraint when his flame almost costs lives, Ben's quiet struggle with the loneliness of being the Thing. These aren't filler. They're context, building not just the legend of the Fantastic Four, but the weight they carry as human beings underneath the masks of celebrity. And then there's Franklin, born in fire, cradled in danger, the child at the center of everything. Reed and Sue are torn between preparing for the end of the world and protecting the fragile new life in their arms. It's parenthood written into the heart of cosmic war. A reminder that even superheroes face the same fears and hopes as anyone else. And though Reed keeps telling himself the priority is strategy, Sue knows the truth. The priority is survival, not just for the planet, but for their son. But Doom watches Franklin differently. His eyes linger too long. His interest runs deeper than concern. He speaks of destiny, of potential, of how children born in chaos often reshape history. And though he cloaks it in the language of philosophy, there's something colder, sharper in his gaze. Something Reed notices but cannot yet name. Act 1 slowly becomes a tension-filled stage. On one side, preparations, debates, and fragile alliances. On the other, flashes of the Silver Surfer, still a looming presence, his path always leading back to Earth. The audience knows Galactus is coming. The clock ticks louder with every passing scene. But instead of rushing, the story lingers, letting us feel the dread, the doubts, and the thin thread of trust between Doom and the Fantastic Four fray with each decision. And then comes the act-ending moment that sets the stage for everything else. Late at night, Reed sits alone, charts and equations scattered around him, exhaustion in his eyes. Sue finds him, cradling Franklin, whispering hope to their son. She tells Reed that no calculation will save them if he doesn't trust more than just numbers. He looks at her, at Franklin, and for once the man who solves everything with intellect has no answer. But Doom does. In the shadows, he's already moving, already planning, already seeing not just Galactus as the problem, but Franklin as the solution. And the first act closes not with an explosion, but with a question mark. A man of science and a man of ambition, forced to share the same battlefield, while the most powerful being in the universe draws closer every second. The uneasy alliance holds, for now, The Fantastic Four and Victor Von Doom are together under one roof, a situation so tense it feels like the walls themselves could snap from the pressure. The media calls it a miracle. The world's greatest heroes teaming up with the world's most infamous genius. But within the team, no one is fooled. This isn't trust. This is desperation disguised as cooperation. Reed insists on running simulations, working equations, and designing weapons that might pierce Galactus's armor. Doom scoffs at his endless tinkering, calling it childish, narrow, blind to the true scale of the threat. "You can't fight a god with toys, Richards," he sneers, his voice dripping with contempt. Reed fires back, unwilling to let Doom have the last word. Their arguments become legendary, whispered about even among the team. But beneath the surface of their clashes is something more dangerous: respect. As much as Reed despises Doom's arrogance, he can't deny the brilliance in his calculations. And as much as Doom loathes Reed's idealism, he can't dismiss the clarity in his logic. They are mirrors, distorted by pride, reflecting everything they hate about themselves. Sue sees it. She feels it every time the two lock eyes. To her, this isn't a partnership. It's a countdown to collapse. And yet, with Franklin in her arms, she swallows her fear. Survival demands sacrifice, even if the sacrifice is trusting Doom. Meanwhile, Johnny Storm grows restless. He hates planning. He hates sitting still while the universe seems to be collapsing outside their window. His fire is both a weapon and a curse, burning brighter the more frustrated he gets. In private, he tells Ben that he feels like a sidekick in Reed's world, like his flame is just another tool in Reed's toolbox. Ben listens in his usual gruff silence, but Johnny pushes further, his voice cracking. "What if this is it, Ben? What if this is the fight that ends us, and I never get to prove I'm more than just the hothead joke everyone says I am?" Ben doesn't answer right away. He stares at his hands, rocky, jagged, monstrous. The silence hangs heavy until he finally mutters, "At least you still look human when the fire's out." That's the thing about Ben. His pain isn't loud, but it's constant. His life has been one long study in endurance, not just against villains, but against mirrors, whispers, and his own reflection. And in Act 2, we start to feel that weight pressing harder than ever. But it's Doom who commands the spotlight now. For the first time in cinematic history, we're given not just the mask, not just the menace, but the man. Through carefully woven flashbacks, Act 2 unspools the origin of Victor Von Doom, not as a monster born evil, but as a boy of genius and tragedy. We see Latvia in the snow, a small child poring over books too advanced for his age, building machines out of scraps while his people suffer under tyranny. We see his mother's face, tired, loving, but marked by a sadness she can never hide. We see the hunger that drives him, not for wealth or power, but for control, for the kind of safety he never had. And then, the moment everything changed, his crossing paths with Reed Richards. Both young men burning with brilliance, both seeing the other as rival and ally. For a time, their friendship thrives, pushing each other to heights neither could have reached alone. But friendship quickly sours when pride enters the room. Reed questions Doom's methods, his dangerous experiments. Doom scoffs at Reed's endless morality, calling it weakness disguised as wisdom. Their final break comes in fire and tragedy, an experiment gone wrong, Reed trying to stop it, Doom refusing to listen. The explosion scars Doom forever, not just his body, but his pride. And in that moment, a brotherhood dies, replaced by an eternal rivalry. These flashbacks don't just humanize Doom, they complicate him. He isn't just the villain. He's a man who could have been Reed's greatest ally, had ego and arrogance not torn them apart. And now, forced back together by the threat of Galactus, the past bleeds into the present with every conversation, every plan, every mistrustful glance. Meanwhile, Reed himself isn't immune to the past. Through Sue's encouragement, he begins recalling not just his rivalry with Doom, but the early days of the Fantastic Four, the accident that gave them their powers. We see it play out in painful clarity: the shuttle, the cosmic rays, the moment they realized they were no longer just people, but something more. Reed's guilt for leading them into that storm resurfaces. He looks at Ben, forever trapped in stone. He looks at Johnny, a boy who lost his youth to fire. He looks at Sue, her body never fully her own, constantly bending, breaking, disappearing. Reed carries it all, the weight of leadership, of genius, of mistakes. And now as Galactus approaches, he wonders if this will be his final failure. The second act thrives on these dualities: Doom and Reed's history, the team's origins, the pain of powers, the shadow of failure. It isn't spectacle, it's build-up, the slow tightening of a noose around their necks. But even as the team reflects inward, the storm outside grows louder. Across the globe, strange anomalies ripple through the skies, storms forming from nowhere, oceans trembling, power grids failing. News anchors struggle to explain it, but Reed knows. It's the herald of Galactus. The Earth is shaking because something too big for reality is drawing near. And then, the Silver Surfer returns. This time not as a distant shadow, but as a presence felt directly. His surfboard slices through the atmosphere, a streak of silver fire, leaving destruction in his wake. The Fantastic Four scramble to intercept, but when they confront him, something unexpected happens. Sue shields Franklin instinctively, but the surfer doesn't attack her. Instead, he pauses, his gaze lingering on the child with something close to sorrow. Then he turns away, blasting past them without a word, as though the battle he's preparing for isn't with them at all, but with himself. Reed is shaken. Doom is intrigued. He hesitated, Doom murmurs. The herald of a god hesitated at the sight of your son. It's the kind of observation that gnaws at Reed, one he can't ignore. What does Galactus want with Franklin? Why is his child the center of this storm? This question becomes the fulcrum of Act 2. As the team fortifies their base, as Reed buries himself in equations, as Doom whispers strategies in the shadows, the tension builds not just toward Galactus, but toward Franklin. He is no longer just a newborn. He is the key. Reed and Sue argue about what it means. Sue insists their son is not a weapon, not a tool. Reed insists they can't ignore the possibility. Doom says nothing, but his silence is louder than any declaration. Meanwhile, Ben finds his own quiet subplot unfolding. In a moment mirroring the original film, he begins studying languages. At first it seems like a joke, the big orange rock reading poetry. But soon we see the truth. Ben isn't doing it to impress anyone. He's doing it to remind himself he's still human, still capable of learning, of growing, of more than just smashing. His conversations with Johnny become softer, more brotherly. Their banter doesn't disappear, but beneath it lies genuine love, the kind only forged in fire and family. As the days tick by, the preparations escalate. Reed builds machines that can bend energy fields, hoping to disrupt Galactus's cosmic hunger. Doom, meanwhile, works in secret, crafting devices Reed doesn't understand, and Doom refuses to explain. The team begins fracturing under the strain. Johnny accuses Reed of trusting Doom too much. Ben warns that Doom's silence means danger. Sue pleads for Franklin's safety above all else. And Reed, torn between genius and fatherhood, begins to unravel. Act 2 reaches its boiling point with a confrontation between Reed and Doom, not in battle, but in philosophy. Reed insists the planet can be saved without sacrifice. Doom laughs bitterly. You still don't understand, Richards. Galactus doesn't care about your hope. He doesn't care about your science. He will take what he wants. And the only thing that can stop him is power beyond comprehension. Your machines will fail. Your optimism will fail. And when they do, the world will beg for doom. It's not just arrogance. It's prophecy. And in his words, Reed hears both the voice of his rival and the echo of his own deepest fear. But then, just as the team threatens to tear apart completely, a signal comes. Reed's instruments detect it first, the impossible energy surge at the edge of the atmosphere. The Surfer has returned, and this time, he doesn't come alone. Galactus is arriving. The skies darken. Storms rage, oceans churn. The planet itself groans under the pressure of his presence. Humanity looks upward and realizes the end has come. And as Act 2 closes, the Fantastic Four and Dr. Doom stand together on the brink of annihilation, staring into the storm of a god descending upon Earth. The time for reflection is over. The time for war has come. The sky rips open. The air itself feels heavier. Cities across the globe fall into shadow as something vast, something incomprehensible approaches Earth. Galactus is not just a being. He is a force, a presence that bends reality around him. His arrival isn't cinematic, it's apocalyptic. The oceans rise, the winds howl, and across every corner of the planet, humanity realizes that survival is no longer a guarantee. Reed Richards stands at the heart of it, staring at his monitors as the impossible readings surge. His calculations, his desperate attempts to quantify the unquantifiable, finally collapse. For once in his life, numbers fail him. He whispers to Sue, to himself, maybe to the universe. He's here. The Fantastic Four gather, but they're not alone. Victor Von Doom is there too, his armor gleaming like a shadow against the chaos, his expression unreadable. For the first time, the team and Doom stand side by side, looking up at the end of the world. It's not trust that binds them, it's survival. Galactus's voice booms, not words exactly, but intent, vibrating through the atmosphere, through bone and soul. He doesn't demand land or cities or resources. He demands Franklin Richards, the infant, the child born in chaos, the one the Silver Surfer hesitated to harm. Sue clutches Franklin tighter, her force field shimmering desperately around him. Reed's mind races. Johnny flames on instinctively, his fire almost useless against the sheer scale of what looms above. Ben plants himself like a wall, his rocky form trembling not from fear, but from the impossible weight of what's coming. And Doom. Doom smiles faintly, as though the world has finally caught up with what he's known all along. The first strike comes not from Galactus, but from the Silver Surfer. Torn between loyalty to his master and the flickering spark of compassion he feels, he streaks across the battlefield, forcing the Fantastic Four into action. Reed stretches, Ben smashes, Johnny burns, Sue shields. Together they create the dance of survival they've always known. But it's not enough. The Surfer holds back, yes, but even restrained he is overwhelming. In the chaos, Reed realizes something. Galactus doesn't want Earth. He wants Franklin. His hunger, his need for energy, has found a new focus in the potential of the child's latent power. This isn't just about survival. This is about destiny. If Galactus consumes Franklin, the universe itself might bend to his will. And here's where Doom makes his move. He doesn't reveal himself with villainous laughter or grand speeches. He simply acts. While the Fantastic Four are locked in desperate battle with the Surfer, Doom slips into the background, his eyes fixed on Sue and the child. His plan is clear now. He doesn't want to save Franklin. He wants to claim him, to shape him, to weaponize the potential Reed and Sue barely understand. But Doom isn't reckless. He knows timing is everything, so he fights alongside the Four, unleashing his full arsenal against the Surfer. Blasts of energy, inventions Reed never dreamed of, strategies that nearly bring the Surfer to his knees. For a moment, it looks as though the alliance might work, that Doom's genius combined with the Four's power might be enough. Then Galactus intervenes. His hand descends, massive and celestial, swatting aside their efforts like gnats. Buildings collapse, skies burn, The earth itself cracks. And in that moment, the team realizes this isn't a fight they can win through brute force. This is survival against a god. Reed pulls the team together, his voice breaking with urgency. We have to separate him from the Surfer. If we can free the Surfer, he can help us. He's the key. It's a gamble, but it's all they have. What follows is chaos. Sue shields Franklin while deflecting blows that could level cities. Johnny pushes his flame beyond anything he's ever attempted, creating a blazing storm that momentarily blinds even Galactus. Ben takes hit after hit, his rocky form shattering, reforming, refusing to break. And Reed gambles everything, stretching into the core of Doom's machines, reconfiguring them mid-battle, forcing them to redirect energy in ways Doom never intended. The Surfer falters. For the first time, he stumbles, his board spinning out of control. Reed seizes the chance, unleashing a pulse that severs the Surfer's bond to Galactus. In a blinding flash, the Herald collapses, free at last, and Galactus roars. The sound shakes the Earth itself. He lashes out, not just at the Fantastic Four, but at the planet. His hunger is unchained now, his fury unstoppable. The climax explodes into madness, skyscrapers collapsing, oceans tearing across continents, firestorms ripping through skies. In the middle of it all, Doom strikes. With the Surfer down, with the team distracted, Doom lunges for Franklin. His gauntlet closes around the child, his voice a whisper only Sue hears. This child was never yours. He is destiny. The betrayal lands like a dagger. Reed screams. Sue unleashes a force field so powerful it shatters windows across the city. Ben roars, charging Doom with every ounce of his strength. Johnny ignites in fury, a human sun burning brighter than ever before. And suddenly, the Fantastic Four find themselves fighting on two fronts. On one side, Galactus, a god who will consume their world. On the other, Doom, their greatest enemy, trying to steal their son. It's brutal. It's chaotic. It's the kind of battle that doesn't just break buildings, it breaks hearts. Every punch, every scream, every desperate attempt feels like the end. Reed stretches himself to the brink, holding Doom at bay with impossible contortions. Sue shields Franklin with layers of energy so thick they tear at her own body. Ben slams Doom through concrete, his own rocky skin cracking under the strain. Johnny collides with the Surfer, who has finally regained control, begging him to join the fight against Galactus. And then comes the turning point. The Surfer, free from Galactus's control, rises. His voice echoes with defiance. No more. He channels the power cosmic, striking his master with a force so pure it lights the sky. Reed seizes the moment, redirecting Doom's own machines against Galactus. The combined force is unimaginable. The world itself seems to hold its breath. And then, Galactus falls. Not dead, not destroyed, but banished, sucked through a rift into another universe, hurled into exile by the very power he once controlled. The earth trembles, then quiets. The skies clear. Humanity breathes again. Against all odds, they've done it. They've beaten a god. But victory is short-lived. Because Doom still holds Franklin. The team turns, battered, broken, desperate. They rush him, but Doom is ready. He's used the chaos, the machines, the cosmic energy to fuel his escape. With Franklin in his arms, he looks at Reed one final time. And for the first time, Doom doesn't sneer. He doesn't gloat. He simply says, "You were always too weak to do what was necessary." And then he's gone. A flash of light, a tear in space, and Doom vanishes with the child. The battlefield falls silent. The Fantastic Four, victorious against Galactus, stand broken against Doom's betrayal. Sue collapses, sobbing. Reed stares into the void, his genius finally useless against the one enemy he could never outthink. Ben puts a hand on his shoulder, silent but steady. Johnny burns dimly, his fire barely flickering. They've saved the world, but lost their son. The screen cuts to black, and then words appear. The Fantastic Four will return in Avengers Doomsday. The theater would erupt. Not just at the promise of another film, but at the realization that this wasn't just a superhero story. This was tragedy. This was family. This was betrayal. This was destiny. And here the Fantastic Four are written the story they deserve, not as caricatures, not as underwhelming placeholders, but as legends who bled, who broke, and who fought gods and demons alike. And Doom, not a punchline, not a tease, but a villain worthy of the MCU. A man who could fight Galactus and still walk away the true victor. A man who stole not just a child, but the future. That's the fixed Fantastic Four. That's the $2 billion movie that could have been. And if you love this theory, if you want to see more stories like this rebuilt, reimagined, and unleashed, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you want to go even further, hit that super thanks button for $25 to help us keep creating epic stories like this. Your support makes it possible, and together we can keep rewriting the stories that deserve better.